Welcome to a presentation on the email capabilities embedded into 123 Sync for ACT. The 123 Sync contains an email integration module that does the following. One installation of 123 Sync will integrate all the emails for your users. We provide an unlimited number of mailboxes and users. You can match emails to 10 fields in ACT. In addition, we have following capabilities. You can embed a field on the subject line, like an insurance number or a record number on that field, and we'll match it. And we also provide web form parsing capabilities. So if somebody submits a problem report form or something like that, you can set up 123 Sync to integrate that with your ACT database. We also provide 24/7 email integration, so you can set it up and it will run in the background. And both active and inactive users can be integrated into ACT. So how is this set up? So we have ACT, and we have all the smartphones, Outlook and Exchange users, and any other outside client software. One thing they have in common is that they all connect with Microsoft Exchange. So all the emails exist in Microsoft Exchange into the sent items or the inbox. So you put 123 Sync in between, and now we're matching all the data from Microsoft Exchange into the ACT database. Very simple, very effective, unbelievably cost effective, 24/7 reliability. Anyway, so let's have a look at how to set this up. So let's go to 123 Sync and now browse for a database and then set up the email integration. Let's go use to take our demo database. We'll ask them for username and password. Chris Huffman. Say United States. There we go. Now that we have reopened 123 Sync, we'll see a couple of things. One of them are these users, which are just in regular caps and regular lettering, and then you have these users in italic. Well, the users in italic are inactive users in ACT, so they have no login privileges in ACT, and they have not been set up in ACT or enabled in ACT, but they exist in ACT, so they have a user ID and stuff like that, but you cannot log in as that user. So we logged in as Chris Huffman. So what we're going to do now is we test if the login works. Click on tests, and so we are able to log in into the ACT database. So since we're doing just email integration, we really don't care about what's going on as far as the contact and calendar synchronization. So what we do is we get into the process filter and we say, okay, we just want to integrate the emails. That's it, nothing else. So we ignore all these other actions, and we go straight to our email tab. As you can see, by default, we provide two default values, the email field and the personal email field. You can then select here any number of fields that you want the email, or do you want those fields to match to. So if you're using user 1 as an email field, then you can put it there. You can, if you want to use any other field here for us to find a match to it, we can do that. So there's really no limits on the fields here, and you have up to 10 fields that you can match to. Before we continue, I'd like to show a little bit of what is involved with email integration and what you should be looking for. This is an email that's been integrated. A couple of pieces here that you should notice. One of them is the record manager. You really want to be able to control what comes up on the record manager field. So if the email is on Chris Huffman's inbox, it should be the record manager Chris Huffman. If the email is in Betty Browser's inbox, the record manager to be Betty browser in here. Also, what we do with the email, we bring the email in, we take the text, the body text, and we put it in the details of the history, and then as well as we attach the email to it. So to open the email in Outlook, you just click on the link here, and the email now is opened to be read in its the way it was received. So you're keeping track both of a searchable text within ACT as well as the attachment that came in Outlook. Back to 123 Sync. Now we start understanding a few of the concepts of email integration. We go to the email integration settings. So for each user, we can enable or disable email integration. In this case, we enable, and we just click to select an inbox. There's an inbox here. Then we can click on select the sent items. So now we've already set it up to integrate both the inbox sent items. Here we have a couple of options which are quite interesting. We can enable or disable to extract the text into the history details. We can attach the email to the contact, so that attachment we just opened, you can disable that from being created. And also you can enable or disable the subfolders. This only applies to the inbox and the send items, so it will start in the inbox and then scan through all the subfolders. And then here on the right we have the integration starting date. That will define when we're gonna start integrating the emails. Now for the piece that we just discussed in ACT is how to set the record manager. So let's look at our example here and see, come up with the different scenarios and needs that you may come across. When we say ACT username as record manager, that means that we set, in our case here, Chris Huffman as the record manager. So when the email is created in ACT, that becomes the record manager in ACT. So it's a very, very easy setting. It's by default. It's very straightforward. But we can see here that Chris Huffman has an Office 365 account as well an office in Houston, which he keeps separate emails in there. So what we're trying to do here is, okay, so now you have one individual with 3 separate emails or email accounts. So what we do, same way that we did before, we go process emails and then just go to the email and then just select the account, which would be the 365 account, which is down here. There's one inbox, and then there's the sent items there. Okay, so we put in the sent items. So what we do here now, we want this individual, and we can see here that is actually inactive in ACT. We want it to log in as Chris Huffman. So we go into the passwords and we set up as the Chris Huffman. So the inactive user now logs in as Chris Huffman. Click on test, and here we go. So now on the email, we can set it, okay, when we integrate from the Office 365, we set Chris Huffman as being the owner of it. So you're having 2 separate mailboxes from 2 separate areas being logged in as the same record manager in ACT. And that's a good application of this setting. So now let's go to the third setting, which is, let's go, for example, on this web form. And a web form is the way we set it up. We parse the web form, which we're going to address a little bit later. But here we want the web form, instead of the record manager to be the login, we want the record manager to go to the person who takes care of all these web forms of contacting. And I think Alison Mikola is the person that does that. So when any web form that comes in actually gets assigned to Alison McCullough as the record manager for that web form. So we just set up here, set up the inbox. Where's the inbox here? And then that gets set up. Usually on web forms we only receive the inbox, so we set that up. I hope I made myself clear on this, but basically you can control just about to the record manager as you're integrating emails into ACT using these settings here. Now that we looked at the basic settings of an email account, so we're going to look at the inbox settings. So click on the inbox, and while you see there's an ACT field that you can set. And this means if we receive an email, we set this ACT field. In this case, we set ACT field number 7, that we deposit a value in new email. You can declare and define in ACT whatever email address you want to match it to. And we also have a bounce email detected that will detect whether this is a bounce email and try to match that email address. So what we have here is the sender email address match. So if somebody sends you an email, you match that email address to the email address in ACT. But for Chris Huffman here, we have it's used differently. Here we have, not only do we want to match an email address, but we also want to match a field that's embedded on the subject line. Let me just give an example here. Let's look at this email here. On the email, we can actually see here that are you coming to the 123 presentation? And there's a number here. And this number can be a case code, could be a contact code, or anything like that. So you can set up 123 sync to match this number to a field that's in ACT. And the way you do it, you click here, just click a pound at the beginning, and then pound at the end. And we'll search for the beginning character and the end character, and what's in the middle, we'll use it to match to the whatever field that you got set up for Chris Huffman 365. In this case, we can say, look, we keep these contact fields on user 10, so we'll match it to the user 10 for the Chris Huffman match. So this is a very good way of actually setting up any contact codes. We have people using an insurance. They put an insurance claim there, and when they reply to that, that gets actually matched to a field that's in ACT. Now that we've seen how to parse a field from the subject line, we're going to take this one step further. We're going to take it into what we call the web form emails. We click on the web form. At this time, we have nothing set up, but let's look at what one web form looks like. This is something we received on our website, and a web form has labels and fields. So we have product, 123 sync, first name, last name, phone numbers, addresses, and these are all part of a web form. You click on submit, and then it gets emailed to the user. So what we're going to do here, we're going to take this form and see how can we bring this into ACT using 123 sync. We click here and we say, okay, we'll go to web form contact us, and we'll put it. If we get an email, we'll still use the 7 new email. But what we do, we use our third option, parse body text. So here, we look at the subject line. And what is the subject line? And the subject line is here. It's 123 sync. This is the subject line. So we take that and we just put that there. So what we're telling 123 sync now is to scan for the subject line on all emails, and then if this is a subject line, to go and match this and parse through the contact. So we can go in here and say, okay, for the address, you can say what is the label for the address here. We look at the label for the address. Oh, it's street address colon. We say here, go right click. This is the search label for address, and it goes into the end of line. You can actually put another label of it, but EOL is our end of line, and we want to capitalize it. So with string action, what we do, we capitalize this. So when we bring in street address, we look for it until the end of line and we capitalize. And we just keep setting this up for everything. Email address. What is the email address that we have? Here is the email address. So go here, take the email address. That's the email address. So we add edit. There's the email address. No space. All the way to the end of the line. We just want the email address to be lowercase. So now this is lowercase. So by doing this, we can run different forms through ACT. So we want to test it as well. So we can just click here. Oh, let's just go to the form and just we cut and paste from the form into our test window. Where's our test window? Here's our test window. And we can just test here. Oh, this is what's going to come out. At this time, we only set up two fields. We set the address one and the email address. We could say close. And every time you come back, you will still have the test pattern right there, and you can always test. So we can say, okay, this is the phone. Okay, where do we going to put the phone? Say here, just close this, and just say phone goes to the phone item here. There's phone until the end of the line, and there's no string action, so we'll just take it the way it is. We go here and do a test. Now we get in the phone as well. So what 123Sync does, it searches using the email address, and it will search the contact. And then there's, if by default, if the contact is not there, it will add the contact. But if a contact exists, you can either set it to update, do nothing, or just attach the email to the contact. It will attach it, set the field, and then it's up to the user to do this. This is a very powerful parsing mechanism that should probably take care of about 95% of your parsing needs in ACT. So one of the questions we get a lot is, how do we parse a multi-line item into an ACT field? So we offer a very nice and creative way of doing it. Let's look at a different email here. Let's look at this email. Here we have product 123Sync, and there's a note to it. You know, of course, we're going to be bragging about our product. This is the true need for ACT, and blah blah blah, all the way to name. So this is a field. So let's just copy this. Just copy, and then put it into our tests environment. So now we have on the note, we have all these multi-line fields. At the moment, we have only these three fields that are set up. Let's go and set up the note. And let's note a couple of things. One of them, this is the label, right? This is the beginning label. But the name colon is the end label. So we go into 123Sync, and we're going to put into user, what about user 3? And we say, okay, search label, note. But here, the end label is actually name. No string action, we just leave it the way it is. Come here and let's test it. Oh, user 3 now is going to be equal to this that came in there. So you can set up multi-line parsing As long as you specify the beginning of it, and then the end, if it's not end of line, it's going to be the next label that we find. If you leave it open, if you don't leave a label, if you clear that label, then it's all the way to the end of the message, or the end of the email. This concludes our piece on the inbox settings. There's a lot of options and a lot of capabilities in this piece that could satisfy almost all email demands. And being an enterprise level software, we could not do without a full range of privacy settings. So if you receive an email, we have the option of setting out the email as public or as private. And if you receive a private email, you can either set it private in act or public or just do not integrate. Outlook allows an Exchange allows for emails to be tagged as private. Or we provide, by default, we provide something that's called exclude from act, which if we find that in the subject line, we will not include it into the act integration. We just ignore that. If you find an exclude from act, you can change this as well to be whatever you want it to be. Another option is inter-office emails. We've seen that a lot of people do not like those to be integrated. They tend to be confidential, and so we offer users the option of do not integrate or to integrate if there's an inter-office email. You can also by fields if on a contact, so you can set up particular fields and an email will never be integrated to that contact. So you can set any kind of field, user 9 to be no integrate, and if that's enabled and we find a no integrate on that field, an email is not integrated with that contact. You can also enable what we call an only include, so it's basically an exclusionary way of doing it. So you can set up user 8 to only include if it matches this, so you only include emails for contacts that match that. So we offer the two options, and you can use those to your own requirements. So after you've integrated an email, we provide you a couple of options. One of them, you can just leave it in the inbox. You can delete the email or just move it to another outbox or another folder. And the same thing for the sent items. Or, like we got a lot of people do, you can tag the email. By default, we provide integrated. You can put there whatever you want. You can tag at the beginning of the subject line or at the end of the subject line. So these are very powerful tools to control the email, especially when you're having a process like 123Sync running in the background or running on a server. And by doing these settings, you can very much control everything for everybody. We also provide tools, inbox viewer, sent items viewer, and an integration report. And these are tools that are provided to users so you can actually open them and then just look at it. It's mostly for our own consumption, but we provide them as well for individual users. This concludes our presentation on the email integration capabilities of 123Sync. It is the only enterprise level software that does multi-user email integration with ACT as part of, and if you decide to start synchronizing contacts and calendar, the product offers that capability as well. Again, contact your integrator or contact 123sync.com for more information. I'll be more than happy to help you. Thank you.